Once again, we are going to build a huge fossorial enclosure, and this is how tall it will be. Yeah, a while ago, if you remember, I built an enclosure of that height, but it was a narrow enclosure, a 20 by 20 by 60, I believe. And now we are going to build an enclosure of these dimensions, which is 30 centimeters wide, to accommodate a bigger tarantula. And also we are going to do some improvements when it comes to longevity of the enclosure. I'm going to show you what I mean. Actually, I won't go in greater details right now. I will do that later, but this is the enclosure, and you see it is super tall. It houses the king baboon tarantula, the Pelenobius muticus. The biggest problem of fossorial setup is humidity, and as you can see, this is basically dry, while these layers underneath are super wet. And if I show you, maybe you will also see the tarantula. See, oh, there it is, there's the tarantula. So as you can see, she dug from here a tunnel that goes like this and then goes like this and all the way down. She had no problem digging to the bottom of the enclosure, but the biggest problem with this enclosure, with this setup, is if I add humidity, all that humidity will just go down, 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 and it will accumulate on the bottom, which results in top layer of the enclosure being too dry, while the bottom layer of the enclosure being too wet, and it is basically impossible to regulate that. Although I have an idea on how to solve that, and we are going to try that in the new enclosure that we are going to build. But right now I noticed one thing that I didn't even notice earlier. This is the first time I spotted this. Look at where the line of substrate is. It is right here, but if you remember, when I set up the enclosure, it was all the way up to here. Also, you can see it on the side of the enclosure. You see, substrate was all the way to here. So that means that all of this dirt compacted for like 5 centimeters maybe on its own. And yeah, I didn't even acknowledge the biggest problem with added humidity in the substrate, the humidity that can't really escape that easily. You see fungi and more fungi over here. So yeah, you will see what I have in my mind to fix this. But first we of course need to build that enclosure. And just to show you which will be the, oh, this one is, never mind. We are going to rehouse this tarantula. Of course, you cannot see her now, but once we build new enclosure, I'm going to take her out. But you see, also I had the same problem in these enclosures that hold much less substrate. I had an awesome plants in this enclosure. You see these plants, but the problem is they require a lot of misting. And when you mist this enclosure, same thing happens as with this enclosure. All of that moisture just quickly goes down in the substrate, accumulating on the bottom. So therefore I had to stop misting this enclosure, which resulted in plant dying. Yeah, but as I said, I'm hoping that I will solve that issue with this new enclosure. For assembling the enclosure, I will of course use the Dark Den enclosure system. These plastic parts are my design and they are available on the Dark Den webshop. So in case you want to build an enclosure of this design that opens simply like this, if you want to build that enclosure by yourself, you can order the parts for yourself. But this set is made for enclosure of 20 centimeters width, but of course there's a way to use this set to assemble a 30 centimeter wide enclosure, as you can see right here. You can do that by cutting 2 sets and combining it in one bigger set, which I already prepared right here, so we won't need to do any cutting in today's video. We are just going to assemble the enclosure. But of course, if you want to know how to do that, there is a video. I will hopefully link it in the description. Both the video how to make a 20 centimeter enclosure by using just 1 set, or 30 centimeter enclosure by using 2 sets. And of course, since I build my enclosures in plenty of videos, I won't be going into greater detail explaining how to do it. You can check those videos. It is pretty straightforward process, as you will see now. Even an enclosure that is this tall, I can build it easily with this system. You see, you don't need any special jig or anything. The silicone is so tacky, so it just holds like this, you see. And also when you follow this edge, you just have a perfect 90 degrees angle on this side. So it is really easy to do it. And for this bottom panel, even though I'm using this vacuum thing to hold it in place like this, it can be done without it, but this way is much more elegant. And since I already have it, of course that I will use it. But you don't need it to build the enclosure, that was my point. That is the bottom panel, so it goes on the bottom, of course. just like that. And now using this edge, you make sure that these two panels are 90 degrees to each other. So everything is just like self-checking, you know. Now here comes the other side, and it connects just like that. And now we use this extended dark-den part to make sure that they are on the exact distance, you see. And also it is holding the sides together, but it is mostly there to make sure that the distance between these two panels is as it should be. And you see, this is what I'm dealing with all the time. These two panels should be the exact same height, but this one is 1 millimeter shorter than this one, creating an edge here, which actually makes plastic parts not to adhere to the glass as good as they would if the glass was the exact same dimensions. Really annoying, but I don't have an alternative supplier of glass, so for now I need to manage. But once I start a proper mass production, I will expect a better quality from the supplier, because then I will order a lot of glass and the supplier will care if I'm buying that quantity of glass from him or not. Yeah, I'm just too small for them to care currently. There we go. This is of course front panel. I think that should be pretty obvious. That support was only needed for first panel to hold it in place. Now we can glue the plastic parts in place. Position it good like this and give it a gentle tap to make sure everything sits in place right where it needs to go. And more taps. Now to put door in place, tappity tap tap. Does it work? Yep, it works. Great. Now I can remove this on the back. We still have one panel that goes over there, but that panel is siliconed in place. Just a little bit silicone here and also on this side. And now I can place that final panel. Nice, but the enclosure is not complete because we still need to glue this black ventilation, but I do it after everything is done, after everything is dry. That way I don't risk moving these panels. You will see now in the time jump, and as you can see, the enclosure is done. The top ventilation is glued. The door can be easily opened, you see. And also I put this black background. It is just a sticky black foil, nothing special. I wanted to make like a proper background, but since today I have time to record this video, I don't have time to make a proper background because I forgot to make it earlier, so we will need to deal with this. And if you look how it looks in this enclosure, that is that same black foil, and it looks alright. The enclosure looks decent with just the foil. As long as you cannot see through the background, I mean through the back panel, it is fine for me. Now let me explain how I plan to deal with the moisture in the substrate. The solution will hopefully be pretty simple, and that is drainage layer, but not just any kind of drainage layer. You know, I used to use these clay balls inside of my enclosures that hold more humidity, and those clay balls allowed all the moisture from the substrate to go down and pool underneath on the bottom of the enclosure. But there was a problem with it. You know, I used them in the enclosures that got plants inside, but because of the drainage layer, the substrate would dry quickly, and at the same time it would become too dry for plants. So I would need to water them more often, which resulted in water pooling in the drainage layer, but without any place to go. And that was the problem. There was plenty of water in the enclosure, but the substrate was constantly dry. I mean, getting quickly dry, and the plants just couldn't grow their roots quickly enough in order to reach the water in the drainage layer, and a lot of them dried out. So therefore I stopped using the drainage layer. And even though some of my enclosures still got the drainage layer, the great majority doesn't have it anymore. I just water the substrate directly less and spray surroundings more to increase the humidity. So with that being said, adding just the drainage layer would result in the same problem. I would have more and more pooling in that drainage layer. So therefore I have a brilliant idea to drill a hole which will allow that water to drain. Yeah, in theory it should work, but we will see after we do it. We will see if it actually works in real life scenario. So let me get this enclosure down, get some water on the glass, and let's drill it. Drilling an already assembled enclosure is always super stressful because you always have a risk of cracking it, but honestly I forgot to drill the panel before I assembled the enclosure. So that's why we need to risk it a bit. Whenever you are drilling the glass, oops. Okay, now it's fixed. Whenever you are drilling the glass, remember not to push it down and also to go slow. Are we there yet? Oh, almost. Yes! In case you're wondering, I use water for lubrication, for cooling the glass, and also to prevent the glass dust from spreading. You don't want a glass dust in your lungs, trust me. Man, reaching the bottom is actually quite challenging. Surprisingly challenging. There we go, there's the hole that I drilled. And you see this line that I made when I let drill bit go across the glass. Thankfully it is on the bottom, so it doesn't really matter. Here are the clay balls, and we can just dump them down, although I'm not really sure if I want to dump them down, because falling distance would be pretty high, so I shouldn't risk it getting cracked, the glass getting cracked. It seems it's fine. Okay, let's see if this is enough. More than enough for sure. So I'll just spread it evenly like this and drop the mesh down that will separate substrate from the drainage layer. And I'm aware that there is a high chance, since this is a fossorial tarantula, that we will add inside. Did they even mention which tarantula we will put inside? It will be the cyriopagopus lividus. As I wanted to say, she will probably reach the substrate, I mean the drainage layer, and I really hope that she will stop there and not continue to dig through the drainage layer. Although if she decided to dig all the way down and through the drainage layer, there is not much that I can do. So hope is all that I have left. It will take a while to get all the substrate inside. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if I got enough mixed. Man, this is starting to look crazy. And look, I don't really have that much substrate left. So I will definitely need to make another batch. Yep, this is all the substrate that I have. Give me a minute. Okay, the new batch is ready, and as you can see, I compressed down the substrate that I already added, because if the substrate is not compressed, there is a risk that the tunnels will just collapse. Even though they use their silk, their web to secure the tunnels, it is still better if the substrate is actually compact, so they need to dig through, and that way the tunnels will hold on their own, even without the silk. Alright, we are getting there. Compress it once more, you see how much the substrate will go down when you compress it. When it is freshly mixed like it is now, it is super fluffy and full of air. Just a couple more and we are done. As always, I will make a nice slope, and right here I will make like a pre-made burrow. There you see a nice cozy hole, so Tarantula will in theory go down there and continue digging the hole down against the glass, and we will be able to observe her, and of course I will record a time lapse of that, just like we did in a smaller enclosure. Now let me just clean everything and then we will get the tarantula. There, and I also put the enclosure right here. I don't know why I didn't do that immediately. It would be much easier to navigate and to set up everything like this, but okay, at least the rehouse will be easier. As you know, I have two heavy fossorials, and now I remember that I actually showed this in a previous clip. But yeah, this is the cyriopagopus lividus enclosure, and we will take that one. And this is the cyriopagopus minax, but I decided to rehouse her because she is bigger and it will be nicer to see her in bigger enclosure. And also I want to plant the plant that I was talking about inside of this enclosure, and now with this drainage layer it should be in theory easy to keep it alive and well. Let's see how it will be complicated to get her out of her burrow, because I'm pretty sure that I will need to dig her out bit by bit. Yeah, and that won't be easy. If you look on the side, can we even spot her? She is somewhere here, and I think that I see a mold here in the corner. Oh, but look, roots of the plant, how they are penetrating in the substrate. But since we have the jungularium, I will just take a big chunk, so immediately the enclosure will look lush. So let's just start digging her out. These are 3D printed plastic parts, and I need to replace them with my new ones that I'm selling. And it will be easier to maneuver without the door in the way. So I'm gonna start using my hands, and then as we get deeper and deeper, I will switch to some tools. Ooh, I could see her briefly. Now we can maybe poke her out. I see some movement. Where is she? Oh, right there, you see? So I should definitely be able to get her out like this. Let's hope she will not bolt like crazy. Come on. Oh, man, she is gorgeous. Just look at her. Rarely we have an opportunity to observe her in such a great detail, and look at these legs, this metallic blue coloration. It's looking so neat, so sweet. Yeah, don't. I need you to go inside of in this cup that I have prepared for you. She got different plants, you see. She's a bit bigger than I expected, you see. Her leg span is... She was making sounds as she was running. So, there. Nailed it, but ooh, she's already turning. She's not like other tarantulas. Usual tarantulas, when they reach this bottom of this catch cup, they just stop. But she actually turned, you see, and she was ready to bolt on the other side immediately. But before I put her inside of her new enclosure, let me grab the plants. And you see, this is the plant that I'm talking about. You see, 2 weeks ago, all of this was covered with this plant. But I pulled it because it was spreading too much. And now I would use that instead of destroying now. I mean, pulling this that I actually want in the enclosure. But it is not a problem because it will regrow. So I will just put it on top because I assume that this entire bottom will constantly be filled with substrate as the tarantula is digging. And if I put the plant down, it will just get covered, at least I assume. And there is nothing special needed for this plant. You just put it on the substrate and make sure to water it often. Now let me put the top on because I don't want tarantula to bolt on the sides. And we can get her back inside. Now I think if I just blow inside, yes, just like that. Ooh. Ooh. Look how her back legs are just awkwardly hanging. She is not sure if she can move, but now you can really take a close look of her metallic legs. They are so nice. Oh, and I want a macro lens. As I said, we don't often get a chance to record her in such a great detail, so I don't want to miss this opportunity. Man, look at this. Whoa, this is so beautiful. Man, oh man, are you seeing this? Best shots ever. Oh, awesome. Okay, girl, you can go in now. Ooh, she didn't like that. Now she's in a nice proper picture position so we can admire her glory. Ooh, can't wait for her to dig and do her stuff with this enclosure. I'm going to set up the camera, set the time lapse, and hopefully it will be amazing. Let's go. Wow. As per usual, she didn't dig at all for first few days. She was just moving around the enclosure and even went in the hole, but ultimately just sat there doing nothing. So I turned off the light for like an hour and this is what happened. She webbed the corner but stopped everything as soon as I turned on the light and resumed the filming. So I turned off the light again for a few hours, which triggered her to relocate in the hole, and I was like, yeah, she will now actually start to dig, but instead she just webbed the entrance, again just sitting there for days as I was recording. So again, I turned off the light and decided to wait for her this time to really start digging, which was exactly what happened, but unfortunately not in the pre-med burrow. She decided to dig her hole in the opposite side of the enclosure. Regardless, I was happy that she's digging at last. By the way, check how much life there is in the substrate, a lot of tiny things, and interestingly, there were a lot of tiny worms moving through. They all came from the potting soil I used to mix the substrate mixture. So there's that. I wouldn't say that it was a complete success, but it was like a half success because firstly, she didn't make a hole where she was supposed to do a hole, and secondly, she didn't make like an intricate tunnel, you know, she just basically went straight down and didn't even reach the back of the enclosure. You see the tunnel only goes down and then it bends like in that direction, but unfortunately she didn't reach the back, so this is the only spot where she was besides the glass. So that's why I wouldn't call it a complete success, but it was all right. Now I definitely want to clean this substrate from the front of the enclosure, you see, because I don't want it to fall down every time I open the enclosure. So we are going to reduce that a bit, and also I want to open this ventilation, you know. Ventilation is kind of important and help out this plant to kind of get in a better shape. And I can actually get this pre-made burrow closed. No need for that anymore. So therefore I want this plant to be in this side more. This is kind of funny to see now. All of this enclosure and the hole is just this small hole right there. She won't really utilize all of this space. And I'm gonna water the plant a bit and wash all the dirt from it. This enclosure will look amazing in like half a year when that plant spread everywhere. Now I want to see if I can show you the tarantula, where she actually is now and how deep the hole is. But first I think that we need to do some cleaning, you know, somehow clean this web from the glass, and then we should be able to see inside. I'm gonna try something like this. Ooh, but I cannot reach all the way down. I need longer tweezers. Thankfully I have just the thing, you see, really long tweezers. Okay, this should work now. Nice. We are getting that glass clean. Kinda clean. We got it cleaner than it was originally. That would be the correct terminology. But can we see the tarantula now? Huh, I don't think so. There is not enough light for camera to pick. Ah, damn. No matter how I try, I can see it down there with my eyes, but unfortunately camera cannot show it. So as I already explained, her tunnel continues in this direction, but moves away from the glass, and then it turns like this, goes in direction of middle of this glass. So I expect that within few weeks, if she continues to dig, she will reach this part of the glass. So hopefully we will eventually be able to see her here, see the end of her hide. But that is of course for the future video. Now before I end this video, I want to make like a cover for her current tunnel, and I have this black plastic panel, and we'll just put some Velcro on it and tape it to the glass. So basically just 4 corners, and that should of course hold it in place. I will just simply stick it to the side, just like that. And now I see that I definitely need one in the middle, but I can add it after the video. Now before we end this, I have one fan mail, so let me open that first. If you want to send me a fan mail, there is the address in the description with instructions, so you can check it out. Oop, what is that? A lot of shirts, and unfortunately no note, but it's not a problem because I know from who this is. It is from one of my Patreons. Oh, it is actually a skateboarding shirt. And fun fact, I never in my life bought myself a skateboarding brand shirt, because all those skateboarding branded shirts were more expensive than regular shirts, so I never could really afford them. And now when I technically could afford them, I have so many shirts already that I don't even consider buying any shirts. So yeah, thank you for now getting me a Bones shirt. I really like it. And the theme continues. A Tony Hawk shirt. Awesome. And the third one is a tarantula themed shirt. Hell yeah. Just one more tarantula, I promise. Thank you so much. This is from Frank. He is my Patreon, and he actually wanted to give me this on the expo in Germany that I was supposed to attend, but of course since Maya and Erika and my brother that was supposed to go with me, they all got sick a few days before the show, I was forced to cancel that trip. So therefore Frank sent me those lovely shirts. Thank you so much, and see you on the next show in Germany. I think that next one is in January, February, March, May. It should be in May, but I'm also thinking of going to the expo in Verona, in Italy of course, and I will also go to this December to Budapest, Hungary. So those are 3 next expos that I plan to visit. Anyhow, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I surely did, and I'm looking forward to see how this enclosure will develop. The updates will follow, of course. If you like the video, make sure to thumbs it up and comment something. If you want to support this channel more, there's a Patreon page, and also there is a web shop. If you're new to this channel, please make sure to subscribe. It's free, and I upload every Monday. Sometimes on Sunday there's a live stream. So see you again soon. Bye.